The men sprayed wires for models, curing windows, breaking down, and he was negligently aware of what was being done and hanging over the lake, surplus, some of the more rains outside the window. He rushed to reach his hands, and the temperature of rainwater was the same as that of his own jet. He was busy windows, careful start-up models despite the fact that one person is in his or her own right as a model, a mixed mincet is sudden. Several minutes ago, he cleaned the house and found it. Having opened the door, all of the lights were lighted, and he found that the practice of demonization was the same as that of his own small town, with almost all the details. Road separation is not comparable to the registrations, or there is some reluctance to believe that a decision is taken to find answers. Yes, people are also discussing the town of the land just under discussion, with them there is no such weather. It was the church in which only a few seconds were registered in the vicinity of the church. Conceived by the hyperlinkage of Pan, whose hypothetical hypothesis is in the process of breaking down his minds in restaurants and chats, complaining about the new polity of small towns. Civil life can only be expected to retool the walls of restaurants and bring some voices. What seems to be thought of, and immediately on this table below. Overnight, he saw models restaurants are plunged into a plumbing. The second morning, the shrub of the restaurant was surprised to find that the wall of the restaurant was turned into Night Israel. At a time when people were surprised, the signs came into being and he appreciated his own dignitaries, who seemed to have control over changing the secrecy of small towns. Capability, he then reclaimed the town's recommendations for a full year, and the townmaster never seen a call for the filling of the road map and the fetching of water. Have we blocked? Roads of my small baggage land area forces have also been rehabilitated instantaneously, and he has been psychologically circulating the rubbish in the model. In the district, city drums are also clean up instantaneously. He hit the trees of the model, and the trees of reality were also uprooted. Prevalence, whole town by way of example, the inhabitants of the country who had intended to move were kept close to the town, and a travel plate was also made for the town. Passenger arrivals, the voices of the inhabitants of the small towns that have been discovered are becoming more and more good, and the people are not happy to be able to catch up with journalists, a mystery to calm, and have begun to do so for some time. All of this is speculative. The so-called instantaneity of the registration has been tarnished. Elections in the near future, their hearts and minds are angry, and they cherish their bags. His wife was normal in the town and could die a year before the accident. He does not care for the future of small towns, preferring more money. Small towns are becoming more or less successful under his leadership. At this point, the inhabitants have forgotten those positions of a pernicious nature, which have changed in a few days. He was exaggerated. Admiration for the unfamiliar acceptance of the people is well received. He was refrigerated at the station, where he was seen. The roadside throws a small rock, with the luxury of the model. A window of luxury, the stone is shattered, and he is angry to the crowd, to the extent that it is a good thing to ask who is doing. He shortly after a sudden reaction from a discontented population, a person's good sense has been felt, the face of the mouth is immediately changed. Vehicles are not important at all, and he is only concerned about the safety of the population. The right to food, there were a number of calls. The registration peak was reached. At a time when they return home in the middle of the night, a gynecological pillar has been built, a buffer in the face of the modelee, there is a glaringly irreconcilable arsenic to him. Condome's air, in her own sense, until the second day, in her heart whether there is panic or hidden damage. At the time of his visit, Mr. Mark decided to continue to merge small towns with larger advertising plates. At the time of his sleep, however, small towns could not be loaded, and the new occupier's electricity could be used as a shield. At any time, the entire town of the town was stopped, the inhabitants were grunted, and the electricity needed to be restored. States, accusation is a new editary, causing problems for them. Why does it not use its mystery power to repair electricity? Not one. The responsibilities of the occupants are finally recognized as a change in the town in which he has no relationship, and the crowd immediately angry. What I see now is the sentiment of the people. They escaped from the church. He will seize a child on the road. Small boys in the drawings. In the case of the Tutsi, the instant blends are found to be true, saying that a small boy is the mystery, and putting his painting in his hands. Intermediate small boys who are concentrated are now watched off the ground. It is not believed that all are committed by themselves. So population A, the return of firewood to a room, the burning of 2 routes, and the throwing of people on the streets of the model, incorporation of marriage media into the model, the town chief suddenly wound into his room, and after seeing the model, he was surprised, not, then breeded. Let me remember that it is relatively high, and that it is difficult to blunt itself. Promptly rejecting his thoughts, starting with his hands soiling, fractures of the model in the struggle have been broken, while the model as a whole has been skewed, all of which have been broken down, and at any time the whole of the equation has continued. Small towns have also become the same as models, all of which are even more varied than what has been done. then taken by journalists to date. The greatest completeness has been found as soon as possible, and they believe that this small town has a hidden gold resource, which can only be seen well. Together, everything goes beyond his imagination, and we will never be able to count on what kind of change we will bring about.